Hello and welcome back to this week's edition of TMA. From Engadget, my name is Matt Smith, and each week I'll take you through the biggest, most interesting tech stories of the last 7 days, at least in my humble opinion. First up, we're talking about a company that once owned Engadget and now is more like a kind of, I don't know, step uncle? It's corporately confusing, but you'll understand when I get there. Let's get into it. Yes, AOL, a company that brought the internet to millions of families, including my own, says it will be discontinuing its dial-up service on September 30th, marking the end, arguably, of an era. And shocking many of us that dial-up internet still exists. Thousands of users apparently still rely on this early era of internet connectivity as an affordable way to access the internet in rural areas. The numbers at this point, however, are a far cry from when AOL CDs were literally everywhere in the late 90s and early noughties. At one point, in fact, 50% of all CDs produced worldwide had an AOL logo. That's mad. As late of 2015, AOL still had 1.5 million dial-up users. And did you know that AOL is actually part of Yahoo, which actually owns our site, Engadget? Yeah, it's wild. Ford is making a mid-sized pickup EV with a starting price of around $30,000. It could be similar, in fact, to the configuration of the Ford 2022 Maverick. It'll also be Ford's first car to feature its new universal EV platform, which will end up in an entire fleet of new cars. Now, at this point, Ford's only two EVs are the F-150 Lightning and the Mustang Mach-E, both of which use one-off EV platforms that are kind of specific to each vehicle. Now, with the company moving to the same base across all of its EVs, this should make it easier for it to make multiple vehicles, including vans, cars, and pickups, and to make them, crucially, cheaper. This first electric pickup will supposedly have more room than Toyota's latest RAV4, without including the truck bed and, frunk. Seriously, that word, frunk. Someone has to pay for that. After all the drones, gimbals, and action cams, DJI's next product had to be robot vacuums. Well, actually, there's a bit of logic here. The same systems that helps DJI drones avoid crashing into trees and buildings will translate into a robot vacuum that won't bump into all your furniture, plants, and stationary pets. Now, to start with, DJI will be bringing these robot vacuums to China, with the entry-level Romo S, the Romo A with a transparent vacuum design, and the top-of-the-line Romo P, which has both the transparent design and a base station. No word yet on a US launch or price. Well, that's because the company is still trying to figure out how to avoid a ban in the US when the National Defense Authorization Act goes into effect at the end of the year. If the company doesn't get cleared, then DJI's drones would be blocked from coming into the US period, and presumably these robot vacuums would suffer the same fate. So, what's the biggest film ever on Netflix? Whatever you're guessing, you're wrong. If you said KPop Demon Hunters, well, you're still wrong. Red Notice somehow, bafflingly remains Netflix's biggest hit. But those Demon Hunters are currently second, and its songs are so popular that one track, Golden, hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. In fact, the animation is such a hit that Netflix is giving the movie a limited theatre run for 2 days starting August 23rd. That will be happening across select screens in the US and Canada, and tickets are on sale now. Don't tell my niece, because going to America is very expensive. And that was this week's edition of the TMA. Thanks for watching, and I'll be taking a little break next week, headed to Germany to report live from Gamescom. So if you like your video game news, stay tuned. Otherwise, if there are any other stories this week that piqued your interest, make sure to check out the full write-up over at Engadget.com. Have a great weekend, and I hope to see you next time.